Russian cruise missiles have violated Polish airspace, causing them to scramble F-16s in response. But just why would Russia do this? What's the larger play here? And just what does it mean for the war in Ukraine? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. So this is kind of the big story here. Russian missile breaches Polish airspace. This happened this morning at around 4:30 a.m. local time. And the Russian cruise missile violated Polish airspace by about 2 kilometers, according to a spokesman for the Polish army. They said, quote, Polish airspace was breached by one of the cruise missiles fired in the night by the air forces of the Russian Federation. Polish army said on Twitter, the object flew through Polish airspace above the village of Osterdow and stayed for about 39 seconds, right? Polish military, of course, saying they remain on permanent alert to ensure the security of Polish airspace. Now, this is in the context of a larger strike across Ukraine by Russian forces. This is possibly an escalation right following the election of President Vladimir Putin. Putin has made escalating the war within Ukraine a key plank, so to speak, of his policy or his policies of his new administration. Now that he doesn't have to face election for 6 years, he can at least claim legitimacy going forward. Again, we all know these were largely fraudulent elections, but it was still a opportunity for him to extract a mandate and a validation of his running of the country. So now that he has that, right, he's going to take it and run with it. And so he has fired, it sounds like, about 35 attack drones into Ukraine, about 31 of which were shot down. There was a number of cruise missiles targeting civilian infrastructure. And this is pretty common to see as Russia slows its progress on the battlefield. We usually see them escalate their attacks on civilian infrastructure. Their goal is to disrupt kind of deeper Ukrainian logistics, but also to target Ukrainian civilians deliberately. There are lots of instances in which these Russian cruise missiles are targeting power grids, for example, or power plants. And those don't really power military sites. They exist exclusively to provide heat and light to civilians, meaning that Russia, again, is seeking to punish the people of Ukraine, the civilians, not just win militarily, which is weird given the fact that he considers the people of Ukraine to be like Russian. In fact, his own spin machine, his propaganda, says that most Ukrainians would love Putin to take over. So then why then would he target and punish them, not the Ukrainian military, right? Is it possible that Putin's propaganda is all lies? No, unthinkable. But here's an interesting look here. I want to take a look at this map of the actual village that Bolden is saying the cruise missile came through. And it's this Osterdow. Don't at me with my Polish pronunciation. Listen, my Ukrainian's terrible. My Polish, even worse. But when we zoom out, you can see that if you are a cruise missile looking to target Lviv, it would make sense. It would not be crazy that if you're going to violate Belarusian airspace and you're going to approach from the north, which, remember, Ukrainian air defenses are pretty good, right? Patriot missile batteries definitely protecting this area here, Lviv, because that is the seat of Ukraine's government. And when you have this, when this is where your key governance, right, your brain of your government is, you're going to protect it. And so for Russia, they're trying to enter from trajectories that they aren't expecting. And that's kind of the power of a cruise missile, so to speak. Right? Cruise missiles have this ability to actually maneuver in a non-linear way, making them hard to track and hard to predict. It's why, again, even though they move slower, it's why things like Patriot missile batteries are so valuable, because they can target flying objects that maneuver in flight. And a cruise missile is one of those things. But you can see that if their route was to approach Lviv from an unexpected direction, Russia may find it worthwhile to actually approach from the north here. And you can see how if they were to approach from the north, it would be an incentive to pass right through this little salient here, this little western bulge in the Ukrainian-Polish border, right? They pass through here. It would make sense. They'd be in here for about 39 seconds, about 1 minute, given that it's about 40 miles. A cruise missile going at about, a couple hundred miles an hour. Yeah, would track about a minute here, zip through, and now suddenly it's approaching Lviv from a direction that Ukrainian air defense is never expected, right? They would never expect to get cruise missiles from crossing over from the Polish border. But I think there's a little more to it than just that. And before we talk about that, of course, if you are looking to keep your level of alertness high, you don't need a Patriot missile battery, right? You just need a little bit of that extra energy. And that's why I made Strike Gum, right? Strike Gum, inspired by my time in Afghanistan, where I had to drink Grippets, the world's grossest energy drink, to maintain my focus on long patrols. And once you've had a 100-degree lukewarm military issued energy drink, it scars you, and you say, I will make something better. And I did with Strike Gum. This has all the caffeine of an energy drink in every single piece, but 0 sugar, a refreshing mint flavor, and you get 5 of them in a pack, which means that this is the equivalent of 5 Red Bulls worth of energy, of caffeine, right? Plus, we have 100 milligrams of alpha GPC for further mental clarity. So if you're looking for an energy drink alternative, man, go to strikegum.com. But even better, we are on Amazon now. So you can check out the links in the description. I've got it in there for the Amazon store. So you can pick these up on Amazon, or you can go to strikegum.com. Okay, so let's talk about what else I think might be going on with this Russian assault, right? And that is covered here in this article, right? Poland says aircraft were, quote, activated as Russian cruise missiles enter the airspace. Now, right, the Polish military says, among other things, Polish and Allied aviation were activated. This may result in increased noise levels. It's a public statement, especially in the southeastern part of the country. And this, I think, we've heard from other sources that Poland scrambled F-16s, got them airborne. There you go, F-16 fighter. And what I think this was, Russia was like, listen, if we're going to violate Polish airspace, let's take advantage of it. And to take advantage of it, what we're going to do is use this as basically a probing attack or a recon by fire, right? So Russia's going to go, oh, it was an accident. But again, they're cruise missiles, guys. You can program any route you want. They could have had it go out and around, but they didn't. And the reason, I think, is because they wanted to test NATO's response, right? What happens? How is NATO going to respond to a missile strike violating its border? How fast do they respond? What exactly do they respond with? And what sort of attacks would they be prepared to cope with? And that is something that Russia is well within its playbook. Russia, basically all over the world, and for years, prior even to the Ukraine war, would test NATO and U.S. readiness, right? They would have their planes fly very close to U.S. observation aircraft. They'd have Russian planes violate U.S. airspace, particularly around Alaska. And they would do this just very briefly, do it and withdraw. And some of it was to kind of, I suspect, create a boy who cried wolf situation where Russia keeps testing air defenses, both to learn about the air defenses, but also to normalize this sort of thing so that if Russia decides to launch a larger strike, that the U.S. or Polish forces aren't able to assume that it's another probe, right? If you have 99 probing attacks and one of them is a real, genuine assault on your territory, right? And you don't know until it's too late, you're going to assume that they're probing attacks, right? If the past 98 times have been a probing attack, and this is the one time it's real, you're going to respond as though it's a probe. And that is why sometimes we discount Russia's strategic thinking. And tactically, right, Russia sometimes doesn't really deliver, right? They're willing to assume tons of casualties. They're willing to take tons of material losses. And to a Westerner, we go, that's pretty dumb. And it's sort of true. But strategically, Russia is still a very sophisticated country. And this is the kind of sophistication that you can expect from them, right? Plausible deniability, saying, oh, it was an accident. We were going after Lviv, right? Learning about their enemy, conditioning their enemy to think about them in a way that they want to. Very, very, very sophisticated stuff. And that is why you can't underestimate Putin and Russia. So I know that's a weird thesis to take away, but sometimes a lot of people do. Right. And I think you should. It's something that we should. Right. The idea that Russia is just a minor global player, that they're not that sophisticated, they're only interested in rolling tanks over their neighbor. That's one of the chief arguments against aid for Ukraine, that it's like over there. It's not really. It's a fight between two, regional powers in Eastern Europe. And the reality couldn't be further from the truth. Right. While Ukraine doesn't have the ability to project a ton of power, Russia definitely does. And the fact is that the prestige Russia gains from fighting, well, it believes it's fighting the entire West. And the problem is a lot of other countries in the globe believe that this is a showdown between Russia and the West. And they are going to ask themselves, if Russia achieves even some of its objectives, they're going to ask themselves, wow, is the West really as powerful as this economic data makes it sound? And you don't want the answer to be no. Anyway, that's all I had, guys. Thanks to the Colonel tier members at combatvetnews.com. Thanks to all of our Lieutenant tier members. I could not do this without you guys. YouTube has really been cracking down. It's an election year, so I've gotten a lot of videos demonetized. So having you guys in my corner means the world. Thanks so much. See you in the next one. Cheers.